Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. CAVIL'S, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. CAVIL'S inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is on assignment literally in Europe. He's taking care of business, traveling the world while we over here putting in some work. We got special guests coming in here, Mo Carter, WZDX Sports. So he's going to give you a little insight on what they refer in that part of Alabama as the hill. We got Charles Bishop, the regular team member, and you know he's plugged in at Jackson State. So yeah, we got a top 5 matchup this week that we're going to get into a little bit. But more importantly for many people, you know, this is the lab with the deans, the professor. We got the adjunct in today. And so y'all may not realize it, but this is midterm examination week. I hope y'all studied.
Midterm.
Oh yeah, I told y'all.
A favorite midterm.
I'm just going to show you that I paid attention in class through these first couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thank you. I told you read your syllabus, Charles. What did we not?
Yeah, that's right. We read syllabus and go from there. But you know how midterms, they sneak up on you. You look at the syllabus, you know, that first week, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, you like, what happened? Yeah, what happened was? Yeah,
exactly.
Just after homecoming too, that's tough. That's tough. Welcome to episode 189 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab Radio Show and Podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. CAVIL'S, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, and today, we have Mo Carter sitting in for Mike, and we have, as usual, Charles Bishop bringing it hard and heavy. We are filming from our home studios for these gentlemen. I'm right here on campus, Texas Southern University, as we said, after homecoming week. Big win for the Texas Southern Tigers, but they got a big matchup coming up this week. We'll get into that, a little more of that on Thursday. We might allow Mo to sneak in that little bit of that, you know, he can be multi-talented. But with that saying, we are sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios from Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Sorry that we had a little bit of delay there, but you know, my copier went down. And so, you know, as I was photocopying the examinations, you know y'all were panicking in there. And I'm glad that we have such loyal lab listeners and students that they didn't leave after the 15-minute rule. You know, for a professor, certainly for the dean, you got to stick around. That's dangerous. Midterm exam week early.
Man, that 15-minute rule was one of the best things in college that I experienced.
Best thing ever. Everybody looking up at the clock like, are you sure? Are you sure?
And then the magic word, somebody stole a roll.
2 minutes till people are talking about sign the road. No, that don't work, man. I'm here. Today's episode of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Thanks to Roy in the background, he makes sure that we're taking care of business, getting it done in so many different ways. I'm going to stick with you first as the guest, Mo. Any hot news out there, just in general, HBCU sports line that you wanted to give to the lab listeners?
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and pull up my thing on my computer right now. All right, we want to say congratulations to Dr. Paula Jackson. She is on the athletic committee over at Hampton, and she's a Southern University alumni. Today, she was appointed to the NCAA Division I Council, which is always something huge when we can go ahead and get more of the HBCU faces on the NCAA's national level of council of anything. Basically, in a nutshell, they're going to be asking for her analytics and also for her great knowledge of not only athletic sports, but also things that'll help out the HBCU brands as well. So big shout out to Dr. Paula Jackson on being selected to this NCAA Division I council.
Yes, congratulations to Dr. Jackson. Well done. And I like the way you put it. The more representation, the better, especially from an HBCU perspective and gender equity. So we're talking about it. We need more of that as it goes. Let me jump to you, Charles. What you have on your plate during this midterm examination week?
Yeah, well, as always, let's look at our players of the week from this past week. And for Grambling, it was a clean sweep for the SWAC honors, as Grambling State's Noah Bowden, Cameron Richardson, and Garrett Urban were all named SWAC Football Players of the Week for their outstanding performance. We take a look at Noah Bowden. He was 16 of 34 for 191 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a huge win over Alabama A&M. Grambling, of course, winning 37-28. Cameron Richardson, Defensive Player of the Week, significant part in that game as he had a fumble recovery for a scoop and score for the G-men in that huge 24-point second quarter there for Grambling. And then Garrett Urban, he connected on 3 field goals, 27, 27, and 39 in helping Grambling to this 37-28 win over A&M this past week. So kudos to the Grambling State Tigers as they swept the SWAC weekly honors.
Thank you for that. Dr. Roderick Holmes wanted you all to know that midterm examinations should never be scheduled a week before or the week after homecoming. Hey, I didn't make the schedule. I'm not the provost. I'm the dean. We just follow what the provost said. Provost said midterm week, week 5, 6, as we go into it, halfway through the season. It's amazing that it's already here, and we're getting into conference play in so many different ways between the CIAA, the SIAC, the SWAC, and even the MEAC starts off with the conference slate this Friday. Yeah, the action is really starting to get good, and it's going to be really important. So we're going to see how many of you studied this semester thus far. You have an opportunity to show up and show out, or we're not even going to talk about the other one because, you know, Professor CAVIL'S, the dean, will put that F squared in your life. So I hope you all are up on your stuff. For example, how many of y'all realize that basketball is essentially here?
Yeah.
In fact, the granddaddy of them all, the CIAA prepares for its tip-off 2021-22 basketball season with a virtual media day tomorrow morning. In its 3rd year in the current format, the virtual media day tips off 21-22 basketball season and starts the journey to the 2022 CIAA basketball that took a year hiatus because of COVID-19. So you imagine a lot of people excited about this February 22, 26. And remember that it is now in Baltimore, Maryland, at the Royal Farms Arena. Stan Luter, TV analyst for the CIAA and ESPN, will serve as a host for the event that will feature head coaches, student athletes from men's and women's basketball across the CIAA, providing an outlook on the upcoming season. Big time. It'll kick off 9 a.m. That is Eastern Standard Time. There will be following 15-minute focus for each school and media availability from 9:30 on. You'll have an opening statement by CIAA Commissioner McWilliams, as we have the visitor Baltimore CEO Al Hutchinson talking about the CIAA basketball tournament moving to Baltimore and officially kicking off this year. That should be big. That should be big. So I just wanted to put a little bit and ask you, Mo, what are your thoughts on CIAA basketball? Are you excited for some basketball, or are you still in your football mode?
Well, Dr. CAVIL'S, I'll say this. When I see the fact that basketball is literally on the horizon, it just kind of lets me know that my job as a sports anchor is about to get extremely busy. Because not only am I seeing that on the college level, I'm going to see it on the high school level as well. And yeah, I started getting a few emails and noticing, and like, oh my goodness, basketball schedule's complete. First games first, second week of November. Like, it just lets you know it literally is right around the corner. It also goes to show you like how quickly the year of 2021 has just flew by. I mean, we are literally in fall. Next thing you know, it's going to be daylight savings time. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be getting ready for the SWAC Championship, Celebration Bowl. And then we'll be in
don't say it. Don't say it. It's too fast. Too fast.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That's how fast it's really going.
Exactly.
With that. But no, I'll be happy to cover some basketball this upcoming year. And of course, we know the CIAA has been doing a great job with their seasons and also the tournament. I've never got a chance, to go to any one of the tournaments, but I've been able to watch it on TV through the years and also online. So we know how big that tournament is. Just going to be interesting to see how the shift over to Baltimore is now going to be. I know many of us have talked about like that tournament making the change. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays itself out now.
Yeah, the challenge with this, when you talking about, as Mike would say, data points, shout out to Mike. I know he's enjoying his trip across the world. Everybody can't just get the job to say, hey, we need you to go here into Italy, France, and Germany, whatever you might want to do. You anywhere else? With that being said, Charles, kidding aside, what are your thoughts on the CIAA? You ready for some basketball? Or you still in football mode?
I'm actually still in football mode, but this is around the time of the year that you start seeing basketball practice starting to take shape, and you start to hear that little bit of buzz with regards to certain players knocking down jumpers, driving to the whole things of that nature. But you mentioned it, the granddaddy of them all, the CIAA conference, after having a year hiatus, it'll be exciting to see them come back in full force and get some good CIAA basketball.
Man, you got a good mode when you focus on football and your women's basketball team won regular season conference championship. Your basketball men's team was in the hunt, won the regular season coach championship with Prairie View, 1 game short championship run in the tournament. And you like, oh yeah, I'll let that come. I'm not ready for that. Let's do a little more football. Yeah, whatever. Man, it must be nice.
Now, Dr. CAVIL'S, I will say this. We know how crazy things were in the spring with us having the spring football season for the SWAC, and the fact that, I remember they tried to get it to a point where, okay, SWAC basketball tournament, no football that week. Well, yeah, we had some rescheduled games, and all of a sudden it just got completely crazy. And all of a sudden you're trying to figure out, like, okay, how do you handle this? How do you handle that? How do you handle it? I'm so glad I don't have to go in through a situation like that ever again. Fingers crossed, for that, because we already know how much it takes to cover football when you throw the other money-making sports in at the same time. Oh yeah, I just don't know how in the world we got through the spring, but somehow we're here in the fall and back to normalcy, or a little bit of normalcy. I'm not gonna say full normalcy, and we know why.
I like the way you put that, a little bit of normalcy. Mo, I see what you did there. Though, Charles, you see how you tried to spin it the backside?
Yeah, I saw that.
He was this close to saying something about baseball championship game. You see him? Yeah.
It was this close.
Yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of the fireworks. We're gonna get into some of this Alabama A&M, Jackson State. Just slow down. Let's kind of ruffle some feathers a little later. Let's do a little more. Charles, you got the MEAC Football Weekly Honors?
Yeah, I sure do. Let's take a look at MEAC Football Weekly Honors and a huge week. We take a look at Norfolk State quarterback Juwan Carter. He was named the MEAC Football Offensive Player of the Week. Norfolk State defensive back Justin Toller and Howard defensive lineman Derek Brokenborough. They were named the co-defensive players of the week. And then we have Norfolk State's Justin Reed. He was named the offensive lineman of the week. And Delaware State running back Savion Wilkinson. He was named the rookie of the week. Let's take a look at the offense and defensive players. We start with Pootie Carter. He accounted for 5 touchdowns for Norfolk State in the overtime win. At Hampton this past Saturday, rushing for 3 and throwing for 2 more, threw for 294 yards, Dr. CAVIL'S. One of his touchdown passes went 70 yards to Justin Smith. We take a look at the co-defensive players of the week. Toller, 5'10", defensive back from Fayetteville, Virginia. He recorded 2 interceptions on his career against Hampton, leading to 10 points for the Spartans. He totaled 68 return yards, including a 47-yarder in the second quarter that set up a Norfolk State touchdown. And Brokenborough, the 6'3", 260-pound junior defensive lineman, he racked up 7 tackles, 6 solo against Sacred Heart, including 2.5 of the Bison's 3 sacks as they picked up their first win of the year. So those were the offensive and co-defensive players of the week in the MEAC.
Big time, big time. Looking good, looking good. I will say this as we get into it a little more. We're going to get into the poll release and get a little bit of that business. But let me get a shout out to Lonnie Shaw, Ricky Burton, Ben Coleman, Dr. Roderick Holmes is in the building, T. Foster, Sherman Miller, Kate Johnson, Ralph Cooper is on here on his thing. Appreciate you, Hall of Famer Cooper. G. Boom Holly is in the house, always making sure that we have the best pitchers and helping us on the other side as well. Reginald Johnson, love the memory. Start the rolling. I'm out. Amos Fawcett is getting it done. Chuck Hunt checking on us. Appreciate you, Chuck. Sir Beverly, Jerome G. Sutton, Pamela Richard Henderson, Kevin Harris. Stan Hardy with the big smile and the glasses on. Yeah, y'all did that, G-Man. Y'all did that. Yes, yes, indeed. We'll see how that affected the polls shortly. Lennon Blow is in the house. Who else we got in here? Kevin Harris. And we'll give a couple more shout outs as we get going. Just wanted to shout out for those lab lectures. It is midterm week, and we'll be right back after this break. Get you into the poll rankings and see what my co-hosts both think about my poll rankings and see how things start. You know, we'll start with the mid-major. Not a lot of changes there, but we'll go through it as we get into week 5 and just give you some hot takes on what's going on there. Stick with us right after this quick break. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High-quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mo Carter sitting in for Mike Washington, Charles Bishop doing his thing. Let me give a shout out to Chad Cooper. I know you feel special in terms of what's going on. Everything, you trying to slide in the class in the back. You still gonna get this midterm examination in your life. I'm gonna put it right on front of your table. You can go ahead and start, sir, with your midterm exam because we're about to get into it. Stand hard to say GS is ready for basketball season. Woo, all right, that's big talk for the G-men. They usually stick to football, but they say they got some basketball for you too. All right, we'll see what's up. Let's go to our mid-major poll rankings. We had several teams dropping out, so I will give you those updates, although we focus on the top 5. Not a lot of changes there, so we'll go ahead and look at some of these mid-majors for a minute here. Dropping out this week was Miles Golden Bears, Kentucky State Thoroughbreds, Benedict Tigers. Miles Golden Bears really got chopped up. We talked about that a little bit on Sunday. Go check out that. We also had an interview with Langston, head football coach. So go check out our Sunday if you hadn't had a chance to watch it as we do our review with BJ Jones. He broke it down in terms of Charles Mike before he got out of here as he was doing his thing. But we got in there and got things shaking up. Benedict Tigers also dropped out. So who jumped in? Bluefield State. Big Blue in at number 10. At number 9, you have Allen Yellow Jackets. At number 8, you have Shaw Bears coming in at 3-2 overall, 2-0 in the conference race. They have a big one this week. We'll talk a little more about that in the second half of the show. At number 7, you have Fort Valley State Wildcats out of the SIAC, 3-2, 1-0. Boy, that west side of the SIAC is something else, 40 points. They jump up 2 spots in the poll after winning big wins this past weekend. At number 6, to finish off the bottom 6 teams in the top 10, you have Fayetteville State Broncos, 3-1, 3-0, 51 points, remaining at number 6. Let's get into the top 5 and shake it out here. I can be straightforward with you. Not a lot of changing here, but let's go through it. Lane Dragons, 4-1 on the season. They continue to surprise everybody, 62 points. They continue to do their thing. At number 4, Albany State Golden Rams, 4-1, 2-0, 75 points. Had a big win, but everybody ahead of them kept winning. But it's interesting to see if everybody thinks they should be up a little higher. We'll check with our guests there. At number 3, Savannah State Tigers, 3-1, 2-0. They keep moving. At number 2, Bowie State Bulldogs, 4-1, 2-0. 4 first place folks, 80 points. At number 1 is Langston Lions, 5-0, 4-0. They continue to get on. I know the HBCU Pro Sports Media jumped, moved Langston down, and who jumped up? None other than Bowie State Bulldogs, Savannah State. They actually jumped Albany State all the way to number 1, just crushing everybody. So surprising a little bit there, but this is the poll rankings. So this is the one I want you to keep your eyes on. With that being said, let me go to Mo first. Any thoughts on the mid-major top 10 rankings? Any concerns, questions you have about the rankings?
I don't really have too many concerns. I'll be honest with you, I thought Albany State.
That's good to hear, Mo.
Yeah, man, I thought Albany State probably could have went up even higher because, I mean, they went to Miles and beat the brakes off of Coach Reginald Ruffin and his team. And, I mean, considering the fact that we almost thought that Miles Albany State might have been like the SIAC game of the year, yeah, that definitely did not turn out in the favor of the Tigers who reside over there in Fairfield. So I'm actually surprised Albany may have not, could have been jumped a little bit higher, honestly, when you kind of take a look at it. Of course, we know with Langston, I saw your interview with Coach Quentin Morgan, which is actually interesting. I remember when that guy actually was playing high school ball in the city of New Orleans. I remember watching him on some of the highlight reels, a few years older than me, but, I do remember, I mean, what he's doing over there is, quite amazing. So, I mean, Langston on the NAIA level, yeah, they're like one of the few HBCUs on that, but they continue to roll and do some great things overall. But as you talked about, like the rest of this thing, the SIAC, or whatever, is looking pretty good with Savannah State. And then Lane as well. I mean, Lane is coming on very, very strong. And I mean, granted, yeah, Lane has not been doing well over the last couple of years. So to see them off to a solid start of 4-1 on the year is definitely a surprise to many, but probably wasn't a surprise to the actual Lane coaching staff and their players as well. So that's why they kind of sit there. Of course, we know Bowie State's going to continue to handle their business over there in the CIAA. But no, it's a good group of it. What's interesting though too with your poll as well on Dr. Cavill is that the amount of mix-ups you had or whatever with teams jumping up and jumping down as well. But I guess that's what happens when you have these head-to-head matchups, and I guess you could add the data points to it, and then you get the head-to-head things, and all those things go into what makes the final product.
Volatility, like the stock market.
Bears up, Bulls down.
Oh man, it was.
Let me go to you,
volatile.
Charles. Good points, Mo. I love what you're talking about there. And like I said, you like the poll at the end of the day, so you're welcome back, Charles. I can't do that to you, so you can be free spirited. What do you think of my poll? But be careful. I do have control of the mics.
Well, you know, I that beat down that Albany State put on Miles. I was looking for them to be up a little higher, but the surprise for me, and it shouldn't be a surprise, but Lane College, the way they are putting points up on the board, and they're doing it with two quarterbacks. Michael Huntley, he's a freshman. He's completed 69% of his passes. He's averaging almost 200 yards a game, and right behind him is Tariq McKenzie. They're 4-5 in the conference. Both have played in every game thus far this season, but tremendously, they're getting it done with two quarterbacks. Anthony Evelyn, he is the receiver on the end of both of those quarterbacks. But Lane College, they're averaging 38 points a game thus far. Just keep an eye on Lane, on the Dragons in terms of what they're able to do offensively. But big one coming up. With regards to Bowie State and Showan. Looking forward to that huge matchup. That's going to be a really, really good one. Both of those Showan offense. Oh my gosh, 70 points against Winston-Salem State. They can really put up some points. So that's going to be a huge one to see if they can stop Bowie's defensive lineman, Big Pryor, right in the middle. He's one of the top sack artists in the CIAA. So that's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I like both what you picked up on the Lane. I think Lane is going to make that Miles College matchup very interesting in the West.
Yeah,
absolutely. And maybe a shocker there, but I think you all are talking about Lane is slowly showing that they in this for real. But we'll see. We shall see. That Shaw mix up. They might have a big one this weekend. We'll get into some matchups shortly. But at this point, let's go to the major division. A lot of people have some interest in the major division. Might just have been a little bit of shakeup. We'll see what the data rankings, poll rankings say. I can tell you that two teams dropped out when we look at the major division. Let's bring the poll rankings up with the top 10. Two teams that dropped out of the poll rankings are none other than Alabama State, the Hornets, 2-2, shut out. Against FAMU, as you know now, they dropped outside of the poll. You have Arkansas at Pine Bluff also dropping out this week as they got taken to the woodshed by Prairie View A&M universities, shocking a lot of people, not necessarily that Prairie View won, but by the way they won. We'll see what that means in terms of the poll. So let's get into it. At number 10, Tennessee State Tigers jump into the poll at 2-3. Big win over Austin Peay. The intriguing thing about that win is they play them again this year, and the first one does not count in the conference standing. So wow. You see, they do not have the one in the conference race. The next one counts. It is in Nashville. We'll see what that means. At number 9, Grambling State Tigers with their big upset win of what was the number 1 team. We'll see if they stay number 1 this week. You have Grambling State at 2-3, 1-1 in the race. So they're right back in the race in a lot of ways in terms of the conference standing, Western Division. They were not ranked. They jump in at number 9. Bring us to number 8, Southern Jaguars, 2-2, 1-0 on the season. Previously, because of all the volatility and the fact they didn't play last week, they did not lose, but they did not win, so they dropped down in the poll. They have a big game this week in Dallas. We'll get a chance, Arlington to be exact. We'll see if that means anything about where they end up next week. At number 7, Alcorn State Braves also did not play, so they dropped 2 spots in terms of they were off. Not playing does not help you in this poll ranking. At number 6, North Carolina A&T State Aggies move up 3 spots with their dominating win in conference play, 2-2 overall, 1-0. So let's get into the top 5 where everybody really wants to see what's going on. We have at number 5, Florida A&M Rattlers at 2-2, 1-1, even up their conference ranking. They move up 3 spots after a shutout at home of Alabama State, causing the Alabama State to relieve the offensive coordinator of their duties. Man, things are changing fast around here. Midterm exams, I guess he didn't do too well on his midterm. At number 4, you have Norfolk State Spartans at 3-2, 0-0, and has not played a conference game, 79 points. They stay at number 4, but this is a team that got a big win against Hampton University rival and doing it in great fashion overtime. Boy, that was a fun game to watch. At number 3, Alabama A&M, the Bulldogs, do fall for number 1. They're 3-1, 1-1 on the season. They still get 2 first-place votes, 99 points. They dropped 2 spots from number 1. At number 2, drum roll, Prairie View A&M University Panthers are 4-1, 3-0. They collect a couple of first-place votes and have 5 of them, 109 points. They move up 1 spot from number 3 from last week, which means that number 1, probably not surprising anybody now as they see those teams, is Jackson State, the Tigers. 3-1, 1-0, 6 first-place votes, 112 points. They move up number 1 spot, which means this weekend features the number 1 team on the road to face the number 3 team at home for homecoming. It should be fascinating and a lot going on here. I want to know what you think. I'm going to start with you this time, Charles. What do you think about the top 10 rankings by Dr. CAVIL'S?
Well, first and foremost, let me give a shout out to Tennessee State. Big win, and also Jeremy Hickbottom named OVC Player of the Week. Shout out to them because I did not see that on the horizon. Dominant performances by Prairie View over Arkansas Pine Bluff and Florida A&M. You talking about defense that pitched a shutout, and unfortunately, Alabama State had to release their offense coordinator because of that game. And then you take a look at Prairie View's defense. Quietly is kept. They are fast. They are physical. And I did not see that coming against UAPB. Skylar Perry actually was benched in this game. So huge shout out to Prairie View's defense for the performance they put on this past week. Looking forward to this game with Jackson State and Alabama A&M. You're talking about the most explosive offense in the conference. They stubbed the toe a little bit last week against Grambling. Did Grambling provide a blueprint?
Pete, don't say too much. We're going to let you get into my feet itching.
Hey, I was ready. I'm ready for midterm.
I sided, man. I know we got to keep the people here. Let's tease them. Let's tease them a little bit. But I feel you because to your point, Jackson State now, at least in week 5, have defeated the number 5 team and the number 10 team in the poll rankings, with the number 10 team losing to Grambling State that has now defeated the number 3 team. Very interesting when you talk about all these things going on. It's going to make some fascinating updates. We'll see what that all means. Oh, Carl, tell me, what do you think about the top 10 poll rankings?
So, yeah, with Alabama A&M losing to Grambling State over the weekend, you know, I knew they were probably going to drop a couple of spots. I think you probably didn't drop them lower than 3, primarily because they actually had a chance to win this game with 2 minutes to go. As bad as they played, Aquil Glass actually had a chance to lead the team down the field, but unfortunately, the final turnover of the game, which was 6 total, you know, was the final costly one or whatever with that. So, yeah, I can see why you definitely dropped them down there. When I kind of take a look at the rest of the poll, of course, I knew North Carolina A&T was probably going to make a good jump, especially with the impressive victory this past week in Big South play. And then shout out to Coach Odoms in Norfolk State for getting a big victory against Hampton in overtime. I got a chance to watch a few highlights of that. As a matter of fact, college football final scoreboard started with 2 highlights of that game, including Carter's touchdown at the end, a la Drew Brees style, going over the top to win it. So, you know, shout out to Coach Odoms and also his quarterback, who probably has the best last name in all college football, if you know what I mean.
I got you.
So great point. I like that.
Yeah, when you look at the rest of the poll, you know, Florida A&M making a huge jump after a pretty dominant performance against Alabama State. I kind of looked at that game a little bit here and there, and I was just really, really surprised how they were able to literally run the ball down the throat of Alabama State. Alabama State's front 7 is supposed to be one of the better ones within the SWAC, and they just made it look easy on Saturday. When we come to 1 and 2, yeah, Jackson didn't play, and they get to 1 because Alabama A&M falls. But I can also make a case for Prairie View being number 1, just because I mean they had a very impressive victory against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Charles hit on it a little bit about how Prairie View's defense, you know, played really, really well and actually caused UAPB to bench Skylar Perry at one point in time and bring in the backup, and eventually brought Perry back in. But then all of a sudden it's kind of like, okay, we're just gonna try something here, there, and everywhere with it. But I got to also give a shout out to to Coach Eric Dooley, because we've been knowing Coach Dooley to be an offensive mind or whatever. Of course, he was the wide receivers coach when I was at Southern University, and we knew he was going to do great things, but he was always pass happy. I'm really, really impressed with the fact that how Prairie View is now committing to the running game and going behind those big guys to take a lot of pressure off of Jawan Pass in the passing game. We know Pass can really throw a lot of great passes, but the way they were able to control the line of scrimmage against UAPB on that game on Thursday night was very, very impressive. And hey, Prairie View, you know, they've got a good stretch coming up, but they could definitely make some noise, you know, happening there. But I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later. Number 1 versus number 3 between Alabama A&M and Jackson State is definitely something to keep an eye out on this upcoming weekend. It'll be interesting to see if one team beats the other, whether the other team go with that. So, but I don't want to tease it I don't want to talk about it too much, because I know you had it on the script later on.
No doubt about it. We will get into it. In fact, we'll get into it in the next hour. We'll take this quick break. I did want to shout out Michael Lee, says Norfolk State. A lot of people making some comments similar to what some of you all were mentioning. The Jackson State jumped to number 1, but they did not play. Hey, it works out that way. And I told you, this is the poll ranking. You got to also look at what the teams did. I told you, Jackson State has a win over number 5. Jackson State has a win over number 10. Prairie View looks very good, but their wins in terms of HBCU play, not quite as impressive yet. They'll get their opportunity. So you got to consider all things there. But I get what the posters say. It is examination week, and you're allowed to make some mistakes, because I am the grader, and I will mark it X on the test. Give me your poll ranking. This is your exam.
Jesse Bishop, Mama said, congratulations. Good job, Dr. DeVille. I like it.
I love it. With that, we'll go to a break. Dr. DeVille's inside the HBCU Sports Lab, because Miss Bishop will get an A+. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Live with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have Mo Carter sitting in for Mike Washington. We're going to get into our mid-major game of the week, starting out with the CIAA. This is a big one. This could be for it all already at midterm. We could get the CIAA South Division representative. We have number 6 Fayetteville State Broncos, 3-1 overall, 3-0 in the conference race. At number 8 Shaw Bears, 3-2, 2-0, surprising for some, but they've been in the mix, but they're playing really good. But yes, this is a top 10 matchup with 2 of the teams that are expected to win the Southern Division in the way everybody else is doing in the Southern Division. I don't expect anybody giving one of these teams a headache going through it. So whoever wins this has a serious leg up in terms of what comes next. And that was big for Shaw because they got that big victory over Virginia Union. And so they're showing you impressive. So I'm going to start with you, Mo Carter. Let me know, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
All right, so when you take a look at this matchup, I mean, basically you've got like players on both sides of, well, both teams that have won multiple player of the week honors within the actual conference itself. I mean, look at a guy from Shaw, Devon Hunt, week 2, week 5, he had player of the week. You look like a guy from Fayetteville State, Joshua Williams, week 2, week 4. I mean, playing DV. And the guys I'm talking about, there's some defensive guys. Of course, I play defensive back, so I'm going to look at the defensive things first and foremost with that. But honestly, when you really ball into it, I'm actually interested to see how quickly either team can start off and really build a lot of momentum in this game. And as you just mentioned, Dr. Cavill, this is a game that definitely could decide a division. And we're only talking about like week 5 of the season. Like, how crazy is that you could literally have a game this early in the season decided or whatever. So, of course, you want to take a look at, the regular things. Who's going to play mistake-free football? Who's not going to turn the ball over? Who's not going to do those things or whatever? So I think with so much hype in a game like that, those are going to be the interesting tidbits that you're going to look at when it comes to Fayetteville State and Shaw on Saturday.
Which way are you leaning?
I'm kind of leaning towards Shaw, actually.
And I like it.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning towards Shaw a little bit. Just kind of doing my little research prior to the exam. And on paper, Shaw is definitely looking good. But of course, there's some other things too that I kind of look at that I don't want to give away too much because, of course, remember, this is the midterm, so I can't let all the other listeners know what my cheat sheet looks like in this situation too.
I love it. Charles, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
This is a battle of wheels in this game. This is going to be fun. You're talking about Shaw Bears. They're the number 1 ranked rushing offense in the CIAA, going up against the number 1 ranked rushing defense in the CIAA. You take a look at Shaw, they're averaging almost 200 yards a game on the ground. Fayetteville State only giving up 51.5 yards per game on the ground. So you talk about a battle of wheels there. Sidney Gibbs, the leading rusher in the CIAA for the Shaw Bears. So this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup just to see who can do what when you take a look at Shaw versus Fayetteville State. But I'm going to lean for Shaw Bears playing at home, run in behind big and Tavius Zachary. You talk about offensive line. They produced 487 yards total offense against Central State, almost 300 yards on the ground, 299 on the ground. So I'm looking for a Shaw to impose their will again, but it's going to be a fun matchup. But I'll take the Bears at home.
Great points by both of y'all. It looks like both of y'all leaning towards Shaw. Great points. Would be a surprise to some in terms of Fayetteville pick preseason to get it done. But I like your point. When you talk about the defense of Shaw, that senior linebacker, Devon Hunt, has been player of the week twice at the linebacker position, is serious. But you do have the quarterback for Fayetteville State, Kyrie Lane, that you talked about. He's serious. But let's get into the SIAC. This is number 5 Lane Dragons. We talked about a little bit, so we don't have to go so much detail. But I did want you to think about this matchup. Will it even be competitive, or is Lane going to continue to make a step as they make a march towards that matchup with Miles? They're number 5 in the poll ranking top 5, 4-1, 1-0 but they are on the road at Kentucky State Thoroughbreds, 2-3, 1-0. That is that option that you talk about, Charles, a lot. So I'm gonna stick with you. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
$1 million question. Can Kentucky State keep Lane's offense off the field? Can they control the clock, control time of possession with that triple option attack? Because we've seen Lane can score points. They score points in droves. 2 quarterbacks, they can get it done, averaging almost 38 points per game. But I got to go with the Lane Dragons. I like the way they look on the offensive side of the ball.
Got it. Mo, what are your thoughts on this SIAC matchup?
Yeah, I like the Lane Dragons as well in this one, primarily because they have more balance. And as Charles just mentioned, yeah, you know, they're getting it done with not 1, but 2 quarterbacks. In most cases, you hear that if you don't, if you don't have 1 quarterback, you don't have a good quarterback situation. But somehow, some way, they're getting it done. And when I'm talking about getting it done, I'm talking about looking at stats and noticing that these guys almost have equal stats or whatever. Like both of them have over 700 yards passing. Passing efficiency is very, very great for both of them. But I think another key factor is just going to be their rushing attack as well. If they can keep the balance with a guy like Ike Brown on the field to kind of get some things going. But as Charles has talked about a lot, the Thoroughbreds, they run that vaunted triple option. And I don't care who you are. If you're not a team that's used to playing a team that's running the triple option, it's going to be tough week in and week out. And I think that's going to be the way that Kentucky State's going to have to play and like kind of up the ante by literally showing some wrinkles that they're not used to doing or whatever when it comes to running that triple option. So if they can find a way to control the clock and also control the line of scrimmage, keep that lane defense out there for long stints of periods or whatever, then that's their advantage. If not, they're not going to win a shootout with Lane, and Lane will probably roll away with that. So it's definitely going to be up to Kentucky State to find a way to control the line of scrimmage and also control that clock.
Man, I like the analysis from both of y'all. Boy, I tell you, CIAA, SIAC action. It's getting good. It's midterm. People get a chance to make a statement. We'll see as these grades turn over this weekend. We'll be back next weekend to give you a breakdown. But we got a lot to talk about this week. In fact, stick with us because we're going to get into that action that you really wanted. Yeah, we've teased it all show long, but it's time to come back. We're going to give you one more tease with the MEAC, which actually starts conference play this Friday. With a Morgan State at Howard. And then we're going to get into the all-everything matchup, top 3 teams. As you have number 1 on the road, the Jackson State Tigers, with Coach Prime, Shador Sanders. The vaunted defense goes up against that vaunted offense. Man, it should be all wanted number 3 in terms of the quarterback. You know who I'm talking about, all world, everything. It'll be fascinating. But let's take this quick break and we'll come back on the other side for the last quarter of the show and break down the major division for the MEAC game of the week and the SWAC game of the week. With that, stick with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. This is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Are you hungry for
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Yes, we're into our last quarter. We're going to tease up. As we said, we're going to give you that Jackson State, Alabama, and give you some insight, our perspective what that looks like. But before we do that, we owe it to the MEAC. We are going to go to Washington, D. Green Stadium Friday night lights on the East Coast up there. As you know, in the Capitol, ESPN 3 is the game. Yeah, Morgan State Bears 0-4 versus Howard Bison 1-4. Howard got a big win this past weekend. Shout out to the MEAC. They won 4 out of their 6 games and were right there of taking 5 out of the 6 in terms of getting it done. So let's get into it. What are your thoughts more on this Morgan State Bears versus at Howard Bison, the DMV?
Yeah, when you really take a look at this, Dr. Cavill, I mean, these are two teams that are definitely trying to fight their way up from, quote unquote, the cellar of the MEAC right now. When you also dive into it or whatever, I mean, I'm probably going to take Howard in this one if I can see the Howard team that played the first half against Hampton. And because, I mean, those guys played lights out. They came out firing and they were out going on all cylinders with Hampton until Hampton kind of put it on them in that second half. If they don't jump out early, then I foresee Morgan State hanging around, and then all of a sudden you might get to a situation where it's whoever has the ball last is probably going to win on that one. So yeah, momentum swings in this one will probably be the key as far as if Howard can win this one or if Morgan State can pull off what would be considered an upset.
I like the point you make there because you look at Howard in their last 2 games, this is exactly what happened. Stuck around, close game. They lost the first one, got their first win of the season last week. So maybe they're rolling a little high, but you're right. Up, heckle and jive, up and down. It'd be interesting. Let me go to Charles and see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Morgan State has played a murderer's row type schedule. I mean, they tough schedule to start off the season, 0-4 thus far. But I tell you, Coach Tyrone Wheatley, his demeanor, personality reminds me so much of Vince Dancy in the SWAC. The tough, no-nonsense type guys. And I really look for this Morgan State team to go in with this hard-nosed running game and go in and get the win in D.C. You know, we've seen Morgan State do this before. They can come up with a big game on national TV. I'm sure my Aggie fans remember Morgan State from a couple of years ago. So sorry about that, Aggie fans. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Throwing out there that grenade. I told you midterms. You throwing out them pop quizzes. Running back Jarrell Johnson, Morgan State ran for 12 times, 106 yards, including a 44-yarder against St. Francis. So to your point, Charles, if you can get him going, it could be interesting. But as Mo Carter says, he's looking at that quarterback play. Quentin Williams threw for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Bison pick up the first win of the season against Sacred Heart. So interesting matchup. But let's get into what the people really want. We're going to Huntsville. We have the number 1 team going on the road at number 3, Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Jackson State comes in at 3-1, 1-0 overall in terms of being 3-1 and 1-0 in the conference race with that tough win in Miami over FAMU. Then you got Alabama A&M, number 3, 3-1, 1-1 in the conference race. Win over Bethune-Cookman, the tough loss this weekend to Grambling State. This is fascinating. This is fun. This is fun. Let me go to you, Mo Carter. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, this is definitely a matchup we've been talking about for quite some time. If you actually recall, the last few times I've actually been on the show in the past, I've always talked about how this was going to be an October to remember, especially in the SWAC East division. I also said that Alabama A&M's road to repeating as SWAC champions was going to roll through the month of October, especially with the matchups of having Jackson State at home, then Florida A&M at home, having a bye week, and then having the Magic City Classic against Alabama State. Now, yes, the loss against Grambling State on Saturday, it was tough for Coach Connell Maynor and company. I talked to Coach Maynor Sunday morning for his coach's show, and he said, hey, we flat out played bad. You can't turn the ball over 6 times, and he added technically 7 because they got an onside kick as well and win a football game. I mean, you really think about it or whatever, as good as I am in video games, either with NCAA 14 or with Madden, I'm not winning a football game where I'm turning over the ball 6 times. It's just not happening. So as I kind of looked at what was going on with Alabama A&M, especially with practice stuff, you can kind of see a team that's kind of refocused on the situation. And they also understand too, that at this point in time, every week for them moving forward, forward is a playoff type atmosphere because they really can't afford to lose another game and control their own destiny in that one. Now, on the other side of things, Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, he's got Jackson State in the #1 slot right now in not only your polls, but I think in a couple other polls and power rankings as well. This is their opportunity to prove that they are the top team in HBCU land. Now, will it come easy? Absolutely not. I think the key thing you're going to have to kind of look at, though, is that offense of Alabama A&M against the defense of Jackson State. Of course, we know what Alabama A&M can do with Aqeel Glass and all of his weapons on that offensive side of the ball, which includes guys like D. Anderson, who leads the SWAC in touchdowns, Gary Crawls on a rushing attack, Xavier Moore, Abdul Fattah Ibrahim. What are they going to do, though, when it comes to going up against the likes of Keontae Hampton, Aubrey Miller, Nugget, those guys on the defensive front? I really, really think it's going to really come down to that offense against defense and then who makes the least amount of mistakes. And I'll say this, since I cover Alabama A&M, honestly, key game plan this week, protect the football. They protect the football and score points. It's going to be tough for Jackson State to do the same things. But at the same time, too, Jackson State's got to protect the football and they have to score points as well. And also, I'm going to go ahead and get with this, and then, Charles, I'll throw it over to you. Of course, you could almost expect a sellout this upcoming week in Huntsville on the Hill. A lot of Jackson State buses are making their way over here. I've heard Sonic Booms making their way over, and this could probably be the biggest crowd in Huntsville for a HBCU game since 1998, which was the transitional year for Alabama A&M when they took on Southern as their quote-unquote first SWAC opponent that year. And there are pictures of them in the press box that show people everywhere or whatever. So I expect the attendance to be somewhere in that situation come Saturday.
Oh, I love it. Great points made by you, Mo. Since you cover Alabama A&M, I'm not going to do that to you. I won't ask you to pick a team. Same with you, Charles, in terms of you covering Jackson State. But I want to give you a chance to tell me, what should our fans look for in this matchup?
I go back to Celebration 1. Rod Broadway made a statement. He said, all we do is make chicken. And he said the first thing is you stop the run. And that is going to be huge, I think, for Jackson State in terms of stopping Gary Qualls. We know Aqeel Glass, he can toss the ball around all over the place, but it makes Alabama A&M so much tougher to stop when they get that running game up and going as well. So first things first, you got to be able to stop the run for Alabama A&M, and then those pass rushers. James Houston, he leads FCS in sacks, 6.5 sacks, and Niles Gaddy. They can really crash the pocket, and then you get that push up the middle with Junior Miller. Those guys, they really come after the quarterback. Very interestingly enough, though, Jackson State has yet to really turn teams over a lot. They got some fumbles thus far in the season, but not too many interceptions. So can they create some turnovers and get some easy scoring opportunities for the Jackson State offense? Reality of the situation is Jackson State is 3-1. And they have no running game thus far. They have to get that running game up and going this weekend. You take a look. I understand that there might be some personnel changes along the way to really get that running game up and going. But it will be interesting to see, can Jackson State actually get the running game up and going and not put so much pressure on Shedeur Sanders to make plays. He is a phenomenal quarterback, probably the most mature freshman quarterback that I've ever seen. But you're talking about really over the past couple of weeks, he's really gotten hit pretty good in terms of getting hit at UL Monroe. And then Delta State was able to get home as well. So they're going to have to take some of that pressure off of him to get this victory for Jackson State. But I tell you this, Jackson State has had 2 weeks off, or a week off, I should say, a bye week. They've had an opportunity to get healthy. Dennis Thurman with 2 weeks to prepare for a team. I like Jackson State's chances with that defense.
Great point when you're talking about that extra week to prepare and really break down schematics. We've seen some really good coaches in the league. When they get that extra week prepared, they tend to really find a way to make a difference. Well, it's fascinating. I'm going to stick with you, Charles. If I had to ask you one or two things, you can go up to three. What does Jackson State have to do to win this game?
Number one, protect the football. And I think what would help is winning time of possession. You have to get that running game up and going. It makes Jackson State's offense so much more fluid. when they are able to actually run the ball a little bit, then you can take some shots downfield with a little bit of play action. And like I said, you have to be able to protect Shedeur Sanders. So I think those will be some huge things going into this game for Jackson State.
Same question for you, Mo, but on the Alabama A&M side, what are the 1, 2, up to 3 things that Alabama A&M must do to come out victorious in this matchup?
Well, they've got to protect the football. There's no way in the world they could play like they played last week and even have a chance to be in this game. I know last week we got down to 2 minutes in the game, and Alabama A&M actually still had a chance to win the contest until Khalil Glass's pass got batted, intercepted for the final time. So, yeah, they have to protect the football, and they also have to find a way to protect Khalil Glass against that Jackson State vaunted defense. We've seen those guys rush up the field for Jackson State all season long and cause terror on opposing quarterback. So A&M's offensive line has to protect and give Glass time. You give Glass time, he will find a way to pick you apart. Perfect example was what happened in the spring. Yes, I know the Jackson State's defense was different in the spring than what it is now, but you saw what happened when he didn't have pressure in front of him. He's able to pick people apart and account for 6 touchdowns when you look at it. Another thing, too, I got to say this. Alabama A&M has to find a way to establish the run. Gary Quarles is the SWAC's leading rusher. He has had big games in the first 3 games of the season, but against Grambling State, he didn't have too much success. He actually got nicked up late in the second quarter or whatever, and all of a sudden A&M was behind the 8 ball, and Glass had to throw it for like 62 times. You're not going to win that many games or whatever in that situation if you're throwing the ball 62 times. So they have to find some way to kind of have a balance. And, of course, their defense has to find – Alabama A&M's defense has to find a way to get some pressure on Shedeur Sanders and also find a way to kind of keep them one-dimensional in that situation. Other key thing I'm going to go ahead and say, Dr. Cavill, field position will be huge in this game. And the reason why I say that, okay, all of Grambling State's touchdowns last week, minus the scoop and score, came on possessions that started on Alabama A&M's side of the field. They cannot give up the field position against Jackson State and give Coach Sanders and Shedeur a lot of great opportunities to go, 40 yards to a score, 50 yards or whatever to the score. That's what Grambling took advantage of last week that I don't think a lot of people are really kind of taking a look at or whatever. They see the turnovers, but they don't realize what starting field position was on that. So I would definitely say protect the football, protect Glass, and field position are going to be big things along with the rushing attack. So I got to give you 4 on that one.
No problem. I like it. Little bonus time for you, Charles. We'll save this because we see you on Thursday. We got the HBCU Classic Major matchup with Texas Southern 0-3, 0-1. They did get the victory. That didn't count in the standings versus Southern Jaguars 2-2, 1-0 in that Arlington Football Classic. Mo, I would not be fair to you if I didn't give you a chance to kind of look at this and break this down before we close out the show.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, Southern is coming off of a bye week. They had an impressive victory on the road against Mississippi Valley, in which they named their QB1 in Glendon Bubba McDaniel. And, I mean, he has more of a great touch with the offense as far as keeping things balanced. But I did like the idea that they did say that Skelton will have some wrinkles within the offense, maybe like a Taysom Hill type situation for the Saints. So I think that's going to be a good thing moving forward or whatever with that. Now, also, I will say this. I hope my Jaguars, the alma mater that I graduated from, I hope they do not overlook the Texas Southern squad who put up a lot of offensive numbers against Rice, and they had an impressive victory last week against North American University. Never heard of that school, but at the same time, the victory was impressive for them to kind of build some momentum with that. So it'll be an interesting matchup come on this Saturday in Arlington. And I know for sure our alumni bases that are in Fort Worth, Dallas, and also in the North Dallas area, including our national alumni president, Laquita Thomas, I know they're all going to be out there trying to, root for the Jags to get them to get another victory on that one in the showdown out there in Arlington.
Appreciate that, Mo. Appreciate you, Charles. Great information. Did you want to share something?
Yeah, I think I just follow up on what Mo was saying with Southern and Texas Southern. That was a shot in the arm, I think, last week for Texas Southern in terms of just tasting victory. But with Andrew Body. It gives them a different look, and they have one of the top receivers in the conference in Keelan Davis. So I think Connell Maynard touched on something this past week because he felt Alabama A&M kind of overlooked Grambling a little bit in terms of preparing themselves for Jackson State. The same thing you have to be careful with Southern in terms of looking ahead to a team like Prairie View to not overlook Texas Southern, because Texas Southern, they can move the ball up and down the field.
Great points by both of you all show long. Thank you for listening inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Coming in today was Mo Carter, Fox 54 Sports, getting it for us real in terms of making sure that we have it inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Again, we thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock. We'll be back at 6 on Thursday. So at our regular time, we look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Don't forget, on Sunday at 9, we'll be right back at it to show you what happened on Saturday and talk about what we are all anticipating now and what Mo Carter and Charles Bishop told you to look for. We'll tell you what actually happened. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's DRKENYATTACAVIL. That's Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you tell all your friends, share, and subscribe. Get the information out there. We appreciate all the lab fanatics. I think I must say, overall as a class, in terms of your first test on Tuesday, you did really well in terms of your mid-exam. I need you to study, because we're going to do it again for the next class on Thursday. Dream big. We'll continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Mo, we're going to test you and see you know the exit.
Yes, sir. Course.
Oh, look at that. Charles.
Lecture.
Dismiss. Even more coffee.